Good afternoon. Like, subscribe, share, comment, throw in the trash, whatever you'd like to do. Not legal advice. I'm going to talk today about three or four things. One of them being an arbitration, FINRA arbitration update. Two being a Washington Post article about Tesla. Three, a reference to crypto. And four, a reference to YouTubers. Let's do that. No joke, no joke here. We'll see. So first, talking about FINRA arbitration. So I am preparing motions for discovery. As I mentioned before, in FINRA arbitration, although you're entitled to documents per a list of documents, you're not entitled generally to depositions or interrogatories. And to get those, you have to file a motion and establish good cause or extraordinary circumstances. And in our case, I believe extraordinary circumstances exist, obviously, because of the U3 halt by definition. And I intend to take, or try to take, the depositions of Sam Drady, Ms. Dumont, the CEO of Fidelity, who I've communicated with, and the person most knowledgeable at FINRA as to the U3 halt, amongst other people. And so I will be preparing the motions and filing them this week, because I know Fidelity was already served with the arbitration demand, and we will litigate them. We'll see, because I'm sure Fidelity will oppose it, and I have the burden to establish the necessity, and I think I can establish that. Well, I know I can establish it. Whether the arbiters agree with me is another story. But that's what we shall do, and they will be filed this week. So I would expect sometime this week that both Fidelity and FINRA, because FINRA, Sam Drady, etc., will be aware of it too. So we'll see if that has any impact. Point number two is the Washington Post and Tesla. So there's an article that the Washington Post produced yesterday, the day before, about Tesla and that autopilot. Well, it suggested that autopilot was the responsibility solely of approximately 700 accidents and 17 fatalities. I don't know over what period of time, but it suggested that. And we all know from the Mmtlp crowd that those kind of publications, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, that used to in the past had the utmost respect, are now privately owned and may reflect the political or social position of the owner. I believe for example, the Wall Street Journal is owned by Rupert Murdoch, I believe, and the Washington Post is owned by Elon Musk's favorite friend, Jeff Bezos. So I don't know if that impacts decision-making at those locations. I don't know how active the CEOs are with their editors, but could be. Anyway, the article that is in the Washington Post goes on to very ambiguously describe this. It doesn't attribute responsibility to Tesla as to these deaths. It refers to some particular ones where an accident may have occurred, but the reporting is incredibly shoddy. Notwithstanding that, about the third page, first paragraph, buried in the material and not reflective of the headline, because again, the headline is 17 killed, Tesla, I'm making it up, of course. Tesla autopilot will kill you. You know, it obviously doesn't say that, but it's suggesting it's unsafe. So in probably like 80% through the article, in one small paragraph, it basically says that NHTSA, the safety regulatory body, indicates that the number of accidents that automated vehicles are in is just a fraction, a tiny fraction of the total accidents that occur in the United States, and a tiny fraction of the 40,000 yearly deaths. And that's just one little spot in a long article, hidden. So the headline gives you a false impression, obviously a hit piece. The body is really inadequate for a publication such as the Washington Post, And in the body of the article, they directly contradict the intention of their own story. I found it really dismaying, and everybody has concern about the credibility and lack of bias of media. And just another example, the writers were poor. They did a very poor job. They didn't do a thorough job, and whoever wrote the headline may be different than the writer himself, also did a very poor job of understanding what he was writing about. So I'm going to pass that along. Next, crypto. So it appears, and Gary Gensler and the SEC, as opposed to targeting naked shorting, are targeting crypto. And I think Binance is basically shut, or my understanding is it's shut. And there's concern amongst other broker dealers of crypto that they may get shut down. And I know I have an account at SoFi, and I got a notice that even though I don't, I have like maybe $15 worth of crypto, but I don't really partake in that. But they sell all kinds of coins, stable coins, besides Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardoza, and all those other things. But I got a list that they're stopping to sell, I think like 16 coins. And those may have been the coins, I think, that were called out by the SEC as maybe being unregistered securities. So it's interesting. They're being targeted as opposed to naked shorting and other things that might more severely impact retail shareholders. But the bottom line, which the other point I wanted to raise, was these crypto assets and the money that would flow into crypto is likely to flow elsewhere. And again, not legal advice, not financial advice, not any advice, but high risk capital is likely to follow into higher risk securities, and perhaps securities such as Tesla. When I meant higher risk, I meant growth companies. Perhaps like Tesla and companies like that will see a boom in their stock values because more money and more liquidity will flow. And perhaps that's a part of the rise in stock prices, perhaps of both NVIDIA and Tesla. NVIDIA's went crazy. Was at, I think, earlier in the year or last year, less than a year calendar month, I think it was like 110, 120, and it almost hit, or I think it hit over 400, and it's in the high threes now. Obviously, Tesla went down, I think, down to 106, and as high as the low 250s in this current run. But I'm thinking maybe that the closure of the crypto exchanges will bring capital to growth stocks and might fuel their surge. That's just a speculation, obviously, not financial advice, not encourage anything. The last point, and I made a prior video about Mullen, and I just questioned some of the veracity of both the CEO and another important player there. And I know there's a bunch of YouTubers who are promoting that. I understand, you get attached to a stock and you don't want to acknowledge, problems with it or the failure of it, or that you're going to lose your money, because we've all experienced that. So there's one, and I'm not going to point him out. I'm just going to point out the situation because it really concerned me and bothered me, and just something for you to think about. So there's one YouTuber who follows that and follows Lucid and some other, I would call them questionable stocks run by questionable CEOs, my opinion. And I saw a video today, and in the video he was promoting, or the title, the thumbnail of the video was three short squeeze stocks. And so the premise of the video was he was going to give you the name of three stocks he knew that were going to short squeeze. And obviously, beyond the fact that nobody can predict that, and it's all guesswork, and I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm sure some people can do better jobs than others, but I'm skeptical of the general premise. But I listened to it because it was a short video. And he went, and I don't remember what the first stock was, or the second stock, or the third. I didn't listen to the third. But I listened to the first, and he gave a little pitch on it. And then I heard him talk about the second. And I think it was, the letters were VUZI. And if I recall, he said he had never heard of this stock. So and I think those were the words. And if I'm not correct, sir, please correct me because I don't mean to misstate it. But I saw you as promoting a stock you had no idea about. And maybe you thought you had the technical ability to predict a squeeze about a stock you knew nothing about. And maybe you do. Maybe you're like super and maybe you have that ability. But I thought that was really unwise. I'll just be generous with that characterization. And perhaps before you put out content like that, maybe you should consider having a better grasp and understanding of what you're referring to. And again, I wouldn't accuse you of that unless you had made that comment yourself. So that troubled me, and try to do better. So anyway, have a great day. Talk to you later.